Let's proceed.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader.
to avail of the privileged hour, I move that we recognize the Honorable Albert Garcia of the 2nd District of Bataan for his privileged speech.
Congressperson of the 2nd District of Bataan, Albert S. Garcia. You have the floor, sir. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Sa ating mga kasama dito ngayon sa plenaryo, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I rise today to speak on an issue that deeply concerns the welfare of the people I represent and the dignity of our labor force and investors in Bataan. Recent events involving Central One Bataan PH Inc. or Central One, a duly area of the Freeport area of Bataan registered locator doing business as a BPO company for IT, technical support to online gaming companies located outside the country have exposed serious lapses and, quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, an alarming disregard for due process by our law enforcement agencies. In the name of justice, we cannot allow any institution to act with a heavy hand and bring distress upon our law-abiding citizens without a thorough and cautious approach. Last October 31, 2024, employees of Central One found themselves in the midst of a raid that quickly turned into a nightmare. A combined team from the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, PAOCC, and the Criminal Investigation Detection Group, CIDG, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and PNP Region 3 served a search warrant issued by a court in Malolos, Bulacan, on allegations of human trafficking. The warrant allowed for the confiscation of all items connected to the alleged crime, and the operation began around 3 p.m. What unfolded next was an ordeal that defies the principles of humane treatment and due process. As the implementing team began their search, all employees, both Filipino and foreign, were forcibly detained and held in various areas and denied their freedom to move or even use their cell phones, despite the fact that no evidence was gathered during the search on the alleged human trafficking. They were ordered to keep their hands above their heads. Most of them were even ordered to lie face down on their stomach. For the Filipino workers, initial threats of detention were made, although they were eventually released, but only after an exhaustive hours of profiling and harassment. The raiding team falsely claimed to be rescuing the employees, which contradicts the employees' clear statement that they need no rescuing at all. Now, with the video evidence, it is clear that the employees were seeking to be rescued from the PAOCC itself because of the latter's abusive conduct. For the foreign workers, the ordeal was even more harrowing. They were labeled undesirable aliens despite possessing necessary papers such as alien employment permits and investors' visa. Director Winston Casio, spokesperson of PAOCC, leading the operation, insisted on their detention, claiming that their work at Central One was illegal due to the fact that they are working in an establishment which has not secured secondary permit from PAGCOR, a claim that has no sufficient legal basis and unsupported by any specific criminal law. 42 foreign nationals were detained by the PAOCC despite the absence of grounds to detain them. If their case is for being undesirable aliens, then the arrest should have been carried out by the Bureau of Immigration. officer armed with a mission order. However, the search was conducted in absence of BI officers, making the illegality of the arrest more obvious. Throughout this traumatic ordeal, Central One's legal representative repeatedly explained that the company was legally operating as a BPO under a license from the Authority of the Freeport Area of Bataan, or AFAB, and did not require a secondary permit from PAGCOR, as there were no POGO operations involved. Nonetheless, the pleas of Central One's representatives fell on deaf ears as Director Casio and other officers of the raiding team simply maintained that they were just acting as on orders of the Executive Secretary. For every point raised by the legal representative of Central One, Director Casio would just end up saying that they were just acting on orders of the Executive Secretary. Mr. Speaker, sana hindi po name drop ni Director Casio ang pangalan ni Executive Secretary dahil kilala ko po si Executive Secretary na isang mabait na tao. At bilang justice, dating justice ng Supreme Court at Chief Justice pa man din, alam niya ang karapatan ng mamamayan na dapat respetuhin ng otoridad. Sigurado kong hindi niya kukonsintihin ang mga pinagagawang pang-aabuso ng mga operatiba sa aming kababayan sa lalawigan ng Bataan. The raiding team also proceeded with the detention of the foreigners. The search was not only chaotic, but marred by reports of pilferage. The foreign national claimed millions of pesos were seized, and high-end phones, designer shoes, bags, and watches were missing. It was also claimed that more than 100 million pesos, which is supposed to be payment for the salaries of the workers, payment for contractors and suppliers, also went missing. What is truly disturbing are some videos that I have seen showing that during the search and arrest, Director Casio publicly humiliated a Filipino worker, stripping him of his dignity in front of many onlookers. Despite showing no sign of aggression, he was met with the officers' hostility, violently pulled and shoved into the clinic room, as you will see in this video, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Inside the clinic, as you will see in the next video, Mr. Speaker, this Filipino person, our kababayan, who was visibly terrified, please show the next video, and completely compliant, ito na po, received repeated slapping from Director Casio. Meron pa hong isang pahabol yan, Mr. Speaker. Surrounded by Director Casio's men and unable to defend himself or even voice any protest, the Filipino workers stood there helplessly, even appeared to be breaking down in tears, yet Director Casio continued to slap and berate him, as if acting out of personal vendetta. Director Casio's actions are profoundly unsettling and exposes an unchecked aggression among those trusted with authority, a behavior that has no place in any just and civilized society. He is a bully, stomping on the weak while shamelessly wearing the uniform which demands him to behave otherwise. He does not deserve to be in that position nor in any position of power. He has now been relieved of his responsibilities as spokesperson of PAOCC, but I assure him and all other officers responsible for maltreating my constituent, they will face all available legal and criminal action. Mr. Speaker, I would like to direct you into another video where Director Casio, acting with disturbing arrogance, he is seen shouting at the detained employees, pronouncing with full dominance that he has the right to hold them and that no Filipino are allowed to go home. His behavior in this video resembles a tantrum which falls drastically short of the standard expected, especially from someone in his position. Ang sumisigaw po ay walang iba kundi si Director Casio. Sinisigawan po niya yung aming mga kababayang nagtatrabaho lamang doon sa BPO at sinasabi niya, i-hold niya sila hanggang Lunes. And take note, October 31 po nangyari yung raid, so that was a Thursday, so 4 na araw niya pong i-hold yung aming kababayan nang wala man lang ebidensya. So yun ang kanyang pananakot na ginawa po sa aming lalawigan. And may I ask, why did PAOCC and the raiding team find it necessary to dismantle or remove all the CCTVs in Central 1 premises during the raid? Was this done to conceal the irregularities in the raid? Were they afraid that their actions would be recorded and exposed? PAOCC Director Casio has publicly stated in media interviews that they don't take money or gadgets during the raid, but there is a video that contradicts his claim, clearly showing that they dismantled and seized the CCTV in Central 1. Please show the next video. Yan po, inaakyat ng kanilang operatives yung CCTV at tinatanggal po. And please show the succeeding video kung saan nakatanggal na po at makikita nyo sa lapag yung dami ng CCTV na nilalapag ng kanilang operatives.
Uy, lalo dun sa kabila.
Dose ng CCTV po yung kanilang ibinaba. Disabling or removing CCTVs during the raid is clearly a violation of the principles of transparency and accountability. It clearly prevents the full and complete documentation of the operation and undermines public trust in law enforcement. Mr. Speaker, the incident indeed has a chilling effect on the workers and companies alike, casting a shadow over the very purpose of economic zones designed to foster growth and opportunity. As a nation that upholds the principles of due process and humane treatment, we must demand accountability for those who abuse their power and tarnish the image of our law enforcement agencies. This incident calls for an immediate reforms and oversight to ensure that such acts of brutality are not repeated and that every Filipino worker is treated with respect that they deserve. Enforcement is not a license to mistreat or humiliate. And due process is not a mere technicality. It is a fundamental right enshrined in our Constitution. Search warrants must be executed with strict adherence in the law and with full respect to those affected. Every individual deserves clarity and humane treatment during this operation. Authorities owe it to the community and to the individuals they impact, and owe it to be transparent and accountable. Vague responses and heavy-handed tactics are not sufficient. We demand a full and honest accounting from those entrusted with the enforcement of the law. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, the search warrant was issued by the court for alleged violation of RA 9208 or the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003 as amended. However, this seems to have been used beyond its intent purpose. Director Casio, in his several public statements, maintains that the arrests were made due to the supposed POGO-related activities with no mention of human trafficking. As outlined in the warrant, what happened to the human trafficking allegation as embodied in the warrant? Lacking any evidence of human trafficking, the raiding team shifted their focus to allegations of POGO-related activities. That appears to be not covered by the search warrant. This ought to be investigated by the concerned authorities to ensure that law enforcement respect judicial mandates and maintain accountability. Mr. Speaker, the FAB, or the Freeport area of Bataan, has a long and storied history. Not too long ago, it was in a state of decline, facing the grim prospect of becoming a ghost town. But through the dedication and vision and resilience of Bataan's leaders and the support of its people, FAB was revived. Today, it stands as one of the top-performing free ports in the Philippines. A beacon of opportunity not only for the people of Bataan, but for the nation. It is a hub for foreign direct investment and a source of employment for thousands. This transformation from decline to prosperity shows the tireless efforts of our community and the critical role of AFAB as an engine for local and national development. I stand fully with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s vision of empowering our ecozones, the front line of economic growth that drive the nation forward. This vision resonates with that of his late father, President Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr., who laid the groundwork for establishing the Bataan Export Processing Zone, or EPSA, which is now the Freeport area of Bataan, or FAB. Our shared commitment to supporting ecozones makes this incident especially disheartening, as it undermines the vital role that ecozones like the FAB play in our national progress. With 190 billion pesos in investment from 2010 to 2023, the FAB has become a powerful engine of economic opportunity. From 2010 to 2023, the FAB investments stood at more than 190 billion. In 2022 alone, the Freeport achieved a benefit cost ratio of 10.31, creating livelihoods, contributing billions to our national treasury, and drawing international investors. Employment also increased to 40,895 in 2023 from just around 12,000 in 2010. Decades ago, Bataan has been known to be the province where communist rebels and militant labor groups thrive. Our massive economic development and low poverty incidence have changed this narrative. Through our provincial leaders' painstaking effort, Bataan has become a worthy investment destination. Unfortunately, a single harrowing event like what recently transpired can negate all that has been achieved. I think now you will agree that the revival story of the FAB, from near abandonment to a thriving economic zone, must not be jeopardized by careless enforcement actions that alienate investors and disrupt our workers. The leaders of the government agencies involved have to agree that this initiative could have been better executed through a coordinated effort, if ever one was even warranted at all. Mr. Speaker, I also stand with our President in his call to end illegal Philippine offshore gaming operations and to eliminate any IGLs involved in criminal activities. But in our pursuit of justice, we must uphold the principles of prudence and fairness in carrying out search warrants. Law enforcement must be diligent with full caution in investigation to avoid unjust disruption to businesses. These businesses sustain the livelihood of thousands and provide substantial investment in our economy. Mr. Speaker, I call upon our law enforcement agencies to act with greater care and diligence. When they enter economic zones like the Freeport area of Bataan, they must proceed with a sense of responsibility that reflects the vital importance of these zones. We are a nation of laws, and every arm of the government must respect and follow these laws. Arbitrary action without accountability betray the public trust and threaten our economy and people. I demand accountability from those responsible for violating the fundamental rights of the officers and employees of Central One. I call on PAOCC Executive Director Gilbert Cruz, Central Luzon Regional Police Office Chief Brigadier General Redrico Maranan, and CIDG Director Brigadier General Nicolas Torre III, who were reportedly present during the raid. As heads of their offices, they have the responsibility to uphold and respect the rights of our people who they are bound to protect. They are mandated to see to it that their teams conduct searches and arrests lawfully and appropriately, especially within special economic zones. By allowing this botched operation to unfold, they failed their solemn duty and thus caused the erosion of public trust in them. Hindi ba sila naaawa sa ating mga kababayang Pilipino na pinayagan nilang maltratuhin, gutumin, puyatin, at isailalim sa di makatarungang kondisyon? Mga kababayan natin sila, mga Pilipino ang nais lamang ay magtrabaho para sa kanilang pamilya. At ngayon, dahil sa sinasabing nawawalang higit 100 milyong pisong pondo para sa kanilang sweldo, paano na sila at ang kanilang pamilya? Dapat sana'y ipakita ng mga opisyalis na ito ang mas mataas na malasakit sa mga Pilipinong manggagawa. Dahil tayo ay tinaguriang mga lingkod bayan, narito upang magsilbi sa taong bayan, hindi upang usigin, maltratuhin ang kapwa natin. Hindi nyo lang kinuha ang kanilang sweldo. Kung mawawalan sila ng trabaho dahil sa pagdurusang sinapit ng mga investors, pinagkait nyo na rin ang kanilang magandang kinabukasan. In closing, Mr. Speaker, this incident has dealt a blow to Bataan's reputation as a secure and investment-friendly province which could deter future investors, a possibility we hope to avoid. We have worked tirelessly to establish Bataan as an economically vibrant and peaceful province, yet this failed operation risks tarnishing that hard-earned reputation. Even more concerning, it threatens the livelihood of more than 1,600 local workers of Central One. As we strive to grow our economy and attract investments, we must remain committed to due process and to showing respect to every Filipino worker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I urge this body to immediately heed this call for justice, accountability, and dignity for all. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
From the chair, marami